What's up guys, Charles from TreeTanksDev, and today's video I'm going to show you how to properly set up your DJI Ronin SC. In this tutorial I will be using the Sony a6500 with the 16mm f1.4 lens. This is the heaviest setup that I have, so I'm going to start with this camera today, and then tomorrow I will do the same thing on my Panasonic G9. Basically weighs about the same as the GH5, and then I will also try to set up on the Canon 200D, which I'm filming on right now, and lastly on the EM1, which is the lightest of the three. So get your camera and your lens ready. For mine, I do have a CPL filter in front, so that would be an additional weight as well. So whatever you want to set up on your camera, you should do it so right now. If you want a for example, if you want to set up the camera mounts, the camera holder that comes in the box, you need to put it all on the camera before you actually set up the gimbal. Or if you want a shotgun mic, put it on to the camera before you attempt to set up the gimbal. So everything should be on. If you got a lens hood, you put on the lens hood first. If you, like me, got the filters, put on the filters first, and then once you've properly assemble all the stuff you require on your camera, then we shall move on to the parts that you need to do a basic setup on the DJI Ronin SC. I'm not going to go through how to set up the follow focus motor. If you did buy the Pro combo set, not today. That will be in a separate video. This video would just be about setting up camera and gimbal. It is pretty frustrating when you're doing it for the first time, so I'm gonna help you out. Secondly, once you set up all your stuff on the camera, grab out your phone, and then you need to actually download the DJI Ronin app. You can see somewhere over here, it's called, just go to the Play Store, so download that DJI Ronin app over here. This is what it looks like, so get that downloaded as well before you start doing the assembly. We're gonna get straight to the parts that we need from the box first before we start assembling. So here's the parts. Okay, so these are the parts you need to get out of the box. If you download the handful, you can set it aside. If you already set up your camera, you can put it aside. So first things first, in the box there will be this plastic. Get these screws out. Hopefully you can see that. Get all three screws out, and also this piece. This is for the this thing over here, the lens support. So this screw goes into the lens support, so you need that screw as well. So you need a screwdriver, the tripod, of course, the lens support. If you're using a small camera like mine, the Sony a6500, you need the camera riser as well, and of course the quick release plate and the gimbal. So if you're using a Sony or whatever camera, check what port it is using. For mine, the Sony a6500 is using the USB-B port or the micro USB, and the other side should be the USB Type-C. So this comes in the box as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you need 9 of the accessories altogether. I counted the screws as 1. Alright, so first things first, we got all the parts settled, so get that out of the box, get it ready. So now let's assemble the tripod. That should be pretty easy. Okay, so first up, get the tripod out, get your gimbal, and then on the bottom of the gimbal you have 2 screws, 2 holes. Screw that into the smaller hole. Make sure it's nice and tight. And open up the legs completely and let it sit. Second of all, there are 3 locks. You need to unlock all of those. Firstly, one over here. This is the just make sure that the joystick is facing yourself so that it's easy to reference to my explanation. So the first one is over here, unlock that. The second one is at the, so that's the first one. The second one is over here, unlock that, and then you turn it around and unlock that as well. So you need to unlock all three axes. Sorry, get the joystick facing yourself again, and then to orientate yourself, the joystick facing yourself, this should be how the camera would sit. Okay, this is the original position. This would be how the gimbal would be like with the joystick facing you. So the camera will be pointing forward, of course. I mean, just those of you who are new to gimbals, this is how it would be. If you let it go, it should go back to original position like that. Extend it out and you'll see what I mean. So first up, next up, we need the camera riser. Get that and get one metal screw. There's one metal screw. Is that focusing? Not really focusing, but get the camera riser and the metal screw and the screwdriver as well. At the bottom of your camera, the hole right there, just go ahead and screw it in this direction vertically. So once you screw that in, then we'll move on to the next step. So make sure it is this direction, put it on and screw it on, and then we'll move on to the next step. Like that. So screw it on like that. Hope it's focusing. Yes, it is. So once you got that fixed, make sure that it's aligned properly as well. Mine is slightly to the left. Make sure that it's flushed. So once that's flushed like that, then we move on to the next step. Next step would be the quick release plate. You can see at the top here there is a larger hole, so that screw, put both screws into that larger hole and let it drop down. This screw, yeah, just so just shove it in there. So got one in. So again, so both screws, screw that in. Once it's in, let it drop. Got it. Then next step, we're gonna attach this to the bottom of the camera riser. So you can see the direction that is his lens. So of course, the direction where this is lens pointing forward, that should be like that. So the lens, follow the direction of the lens, and then there's two holes at the bottom here, 1, 2, and there are 2 screws. So just screw that in. Then use your fingers to tighten it, and then use the screwdriver. That would be easier. Just get one in. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, so once you got that in, make sure the direction follows mine. The lens is on top, and then you just push it all the way to heavy. Heavy should be at the bottom, and then you just make sure it's screwed in properly. So once it's like that, then you use the screwdriver to tighten it. This is really important to use a screwdriver. If you use your fingernail, or you can use a coin to tighten it as well. When the gimbal moves, this will loosen on its own if it's not tight, so make sure you got that fixed. So that's number 2 done, and then we come to this piece. This would be the lens support, so this is the correct direction. So there's 2 sides. The side with the bigger hole would be facing outward so that you can screw the screw in easily. So this should support the lens like that, like a Y kind of shape. Hope you can see that. So that this should be flush with this. Make sure that both sides are touching the lens, the bottom of the lens. And then you just screw it on with this screw. Okay, so make sure it's flushed. Use your thumb and your middle finger to hold it so that you know that it's flushed. And then you just screw it in. So screw it in. And that should be the lens support. Alright, so screw that in. Make sure both sides are touching the bottom of the lens. Got it? Okay, so we've done the 3 things. We've put on the camera riser, the quick release plate, and the lens mount. So right now we're gonna put this on the gimbal straight away. You can see on the quick release plate there is a small lever. This is a marker so that the next time you set up your camera on the gimbal, you don't need to redo the settings. This can actually make a mark so that you don't have to reset up the next time. So put this all the way to the top. Just screw it there and leave it there. Later on, once we get the correct measurement, the correct balance, then we can use this to mark the correct location. With the joystick facing you again, you want to put this in its proper position with the axis over here, the one sticking out, this angle, facing you as well. Alright, so this would be how the camera should sit with the lens facing that direction. So what you're going to do next is underneath. Okay, so underneath there is a screw. So loosen that screw by rotating it clockwise to loosen. So once that's loose, you can actually take your camera and with the lens facing forward, slide it in. Once it's halfway in, put your hand under the lens to balance it, and then your right hand hold this joint here, and then you shift the camera left and right. Once you have the correct position, it should balance on its own without you touching it. So if it's balanced, it should look like this. It's not tilting back and forth. So once this is correct, you can actually tighten the screw slowly, and we're done. The first axis is done. Now you can use that marker over here. Unscrew the marker and just make sure that it's flushed with the quick release plate, so that is your marker, so that you know the next time around when you slot it in immediately, it should be flush with the marker, and that is the correct position. So that is the first axis. The second one we're going to do is this side over here. You can see the screw, loosen that as well. Anti-clockwise to loosen. So once that's loose, what you got to do is point the camera upwards like that, and then put the camera upwards like that. If it's correct position, it should stay pointing upwards. If it's wrong, you will see it look like this. For example, it's bending forward or it's bending backwards. So make sure you adjust it until it sits. Without you having to touch it, the lens should point upwards. Once that's correct, screw it in place. And we're done. So 2 axes done, 1 axis left. The last one is this axis, the bottom here. This one, you can just play around a bit as well. Loosen it up. You can move it back and forward. This third axis, I can show you just around here. This is the third axis. Alright, so once you got that, for me, I just set it at number 2. The marking there 0, 1, 2. Mine is just set it number 2, and it should stay once it's properly balanced. So that's all. So we've done all 3. The last one is actually, if I were to point the camera towards the lens towards you, this first one that we started to adjust, you can see there's some markings on the front. This can also, once you loosen that, you can actually shift it left and right as well. So mine is already calibrated, so it sits perfectly. But if yours is slanting to the left or to the right, you can actually loosen this. I'm going to loosen this. And you can actually shift this left and right. So this is a little bit more tricky. Make sure that it's loose. So loosen this screw here and you can shift it left and right. So if it's not balanced, you can see it sink too much to the left, or if you push it in too much, you will see it slanting to the right. So this will be the last axis. So just adjust it until it is properly balanced. Yeah, once it's properly balanced, it should be level. It shouldn't be slanting to the left or to the right. And then once you're done, tighten it and make sure, again, just now we did the marking, make sure that while you were shifting it left or right, it didn't fall backwards. So make sure that this metal piece like that is flushed against your marker that you set just now, and then you tighten it to make sure everything is set up. So it should look like that. It should be stable. And yep, there you have it. So you can power it on. There's a power button over here on the right hand side. The joystick is facing you on the right hand side. Okay, so now we can power it on. Just press and hold once. You should hear the ding noise. And yep, we're done. Set up. Okay, so very nice. And if you want to be able to control your camera with the joystick, meaning if you're using a zoom lens, you can actually use that focus wheel to zoom in and out. And if you want to press the record button, instead of having to press the record button on the camera, you can just press it on the gimbal itself. You will need to connect the cable. How do you connect the cable? The USB Type-C part, this is for this gimbal. So the Sony a6500 is using the USB Type B, or what they call micro USB. Nope, it's not focusing, but you know what the USB type, the micro USB cable looks like. So micro USB goes into the camera. I'm gonna power this down first while I plug in the camera, the cable. So open up the side here. You should see the micro USB port. plug in that micro USB here. And where is the USB Type-C port on the gimbal? If you look closely, this is your camera. You can see that over here underneath the camera there's a USB Type-C port, so that is what you're gonna use to plug it in. Don't use the one over here. The bottom here, if you open it up, is also a USB Type-C port. This is for charging the battery. Okay, so don't use the one over here. This is for charging the battery. The grip itself is the battery, so just plug in your Type-C cable, and there you have it. You should be able to control your gimbal and then power it back on. Once it's on, open your DJI Ronin app. Okay, and then at the top here, mine is already connected, but all you gotta do is press connect. And then the first thing that I did was go into balance adjustment, and you can just follow the instruction to tilt the gimbal 15 degrees or more, like that. They will also, at the bottom here, they will show you how many degrees your camera is tilted. So if I tilt it, you can see that the number is increasing. So you just got to do 15 degrees or more, and then you press the begin test. So if it's set up properly, if it's not tilted, they will tell you inappropriate gimbal incline. But once it's tilted, mine is tilted, you can see at the bottom 26 degrees, begin test, and it should automatically move on its own. You can see it moving. Once the test is done, they will tell you if the gimbal is properly adjusted or not. Yep, sorry, I had to adjust the ISO, but you can see if it's properly adjusted. They will tell you the tilt is excellent, the roll is excellent, and the pan needs rebalancing. So the pan is the bottom axis here, so you can just loosen that, and then you can shift it back or forth, tighten it again, and then begin the test. So just keep doing that until the pan is indicates excellent. Then you should be all done and set up. So thanks guys for watching. Hope this video was informational. You can see that pan rebalance needed, so you just keep adjusting until this bottom pan axis is fixed. For the tilt and roll, as I showed you just now, if it stays on its own, it means it's properly configured more or less. But for the pan, just keep on adjusting it. So hope you enjoyed this video guys. Quick setup on the Sony a6500, and tomorrow I'll be setting it up on the Panasonic G9, or basically pretty much the same as the GH5 for you Panasonic users. And then the following day I'm going to set it up on my Canon 200D, and on the Friday or Thursday or Friday I'll be setting it up on the EM1, so watch out for that videos. Thanks guys for watching. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the alerts button, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.